A little girl named Tansy Espinal grew up with gorillas, known for their similarity to humans and being one of the strongest animals on Earth, making her a very unique child. Her family ran a rehabilitation center, and Tansy's childhood was spent there. Animals that were injured, sick, or had lost their homes came to this center for various reasons. The main goal of the rehabilitation center was to rehabilitate gorillas, improve their quality of life, make them healthy, keep them happy, and possibly release them back into their natural habitats. The staff at the center gradually formed close relationships with the gorillas. Since Tansy's family owned the place and she spent most of her time there, she also formed a strong bond with these big but gentle giants. However, this didn't change the fact that gorillas could be dangerous animals. If provoked, they could reveal their wild side and become aggressive. Such incidents were usually attributed to misunderstandings between the animals and the staff. This is why Tansy's parents never interfered with her interactions with the gorillas. They let them be. The gorillas knew very well that Tansy was not one of them, yet they accepted her as one of their own and protected her when she was around. It was incredible that a small girl could form such a strong bond with these massive animals. These intelligent and emotionally developed creatures quickly learned to love the cute little girl and care for her almost like parents. They ate, drank, sat, and played with her. Watching all this was a special and rare sight for everyone at the facility. However, the time had come for the 10 gorillas to continue their own lives. They couldn't stay and play with Tansy forever. Therefore, the gorillas were taken to an island in the middle of a large river. This was another step in their return to the wild. On this island, the gorillas could readapt to their old lives and relearn to hunt without any danger. They could regain their natural behaviors. Tansy and her family stayed with the gorillas throughout the process, ensuring they adapted properly to their natural environment. They waited for the gorillas to learn how to survive. They stayed on the island for about 3 months, but eventually it was time for the gorillas to return to the open forest. It was a heartbreaking day for everyone. The gorillas gathered together and bid farewell to Tansy and her family, as if saying goodbye to old friends. Despite spending months in semi-wild conditions, it was clear that they had grown even closer to the family, especially to little Tansy. But they knew this was the best path for them. No matter how sad they were, they moved on. They advanced towards the majestic trees of the wild as a group and soon disappeared among the trees, hoping for a long and happy life. Years went by, and time passed quickly. Tansy had grown up. She was now a strong and beautiful woman, well-educated and greatly developed. She started working at the foundation her parents established to rehabilitate future generations of gorillas and prepare them for release into the wild. She had returned to the place where she had spent perhaps the best years of her childhood after many years. Despite all the years that had passed, Tansy still dreamed of seeing the gorillas who had been like family to her as a child. She had many questions in her mind. Would they recognize her if they saw her again? Could they still maintain their old bonds? To find answers to all these questions, Tansy asked her father if he would accompany her on a trip to see the gorillas again. Her father gladly accepted Tansy's offer. A trip was organized to Gabon, where all the gorillas from the facility had been released. Both Tansy and her father knew it wouldn't be easy to find the right gorillas. Tansy had closer relationships with 2 individuals among the gorillas. She hoped to find them. One was named Mary, and the other was Bob. Tansy was sure she would recognize them. They had a long journey. No matter how far they progressed in the forest, their task didn't get easier or faster. They moved on from Gabon, but this untouched and human-free nature showed that the gorillas were safe. However, the further they went, the more uneasy they felt. They progressed with rather strange feelings. Tansy wasn't afraid of the gorillas. She had spent her life with animals since her childhood, but she still felt a strange sensation. It felt like meeting relatives she hadn't seen for years. She was also very afraid that they wouldn't recognize her. She couldn't shake the thought that her old friends might not remember her. But she was convinced that the gorillas would recognize her, trusting the bond between them. Even though 12 years had passed, after all, she was still the same Tansy and hadn't changed much physically. When they landed their boat, Tansy and her father immediately started looking for the gorillas. They knew it would take more than a few hours. However, they couldn't believe it when they found the animals' tracks just a few minutes later. Both were very excited and happy. They immediately started following the tracks. They finally reached a clearing. In front of them stood a group of gorillas. They froze because they saw Mary and Bob among the gorillas. When the gorillas saw these new people, they started running towards them. Tansy and her father, being experienced, stood still. They knew that if they ran, the gorillas would perceive it as a sign of weakness and might instinctively attack. At that moment, Mary and Bob gave Tansy a loving hug. Tansy knew deep down that they wouldn't attack her, and she was right. The gorillas had recognized her. Tansy hugged them back with great joy and couldn't hold back her tears of happiness. She hadn't expected to become so emotional. She and her father stayed with the gorillas for the next few days. They also saw other gorillas they had rehabilitated, who greeted Tansy and her father kindly, even if they weren't as close as Mary and Bob. It was time for Tansy and her father to return home again. It felt like they were experiencing the same separation for the second time. It seemed that the gorillas were not ready for the separation this time. They shared the same feelings with Tansy. They hugged each other in a very sad state. Tansy and her father knew they couldn't stay with the gorillas forever. Likewise, the gorillas couldn't live with them. This was the law of nature. They had fulfilled their duty. They had rehabilitated the gorillas back to health and released them into the wild. Now it was time for the gorillas to live in the home where they belonged. As sad as it was, Tansy knew this meant hope for the gorillas and future generations. Deep down, Tansy also felt a sense of peace knowing this. Tansy had experienced one of the rarest and most special events in the world. She had won the heart of a gorilla. She had made a friendship with a gorilla that was perhaps stronger than her bond with humans. Tansy went back to visit the gorillas many more times over the years. Some of these trips were even more crowded. She was joined by her father, mother, and other gorilla-loving staff at the facility. Each time they met, they embraced with the same warmth. Every time Tansy visited, the gorillas experienced the same joy over and over again. Neither the gorillas forgot Tansy, nor Tansy forgot them. This was the realization of the tale of friendship between man and gorilla. As with Tansy, people can sometimes get the love from an animal that they cannot get from each other. When they have such loyal feelings, perhaps they are the only ones who will not disappoint us. They expect nothing from us but a little love and respect for their lives. They are an important part of our lives in this world. And most importantly, they love us as we are.